Okay, jumping back in, um, getting ready to talk about some sort of document, the ransom note being examined by, I think Thomas Miller. So here we go.
This letter, that's what Mr. Hoffman says.
And you have a recollection that at some point subsequent to October of 1997, go back if I could to where I got sidetracked when we started talking about the Vanity Fair article. After the Vanity Fair article was published and after the ransom note was made public, let me hand you Exhibit 6. Along came Mr. Hoffman again, this time communicating to you that according to a Globe tabloid story, there was a alleged document examiner named Tom Miller who believed that Patsy Ramsey wrote the note.
Mhm.
Am I right?
In this letter, that's what Mr. Hoffman says.
And you have a recollection that at some point subsequent to October of 1997 that Mr. Hoffman submitted to your office affidavits from 3 individuals, one, Thomas C. Miller, 2, David S. Liebman, and 3, Senna L. Wong, which affidavits made claims of expertise in handwriting analysis and conclusions that Patsy Ramsey was the author of the ransom note. Do you recall that?
Yes.
I would be correct, would I not, Mr. Hunter, in stating that your office had to look at a lot of information from a lot of different sources, some of which was totally bogus, a total waste of time, some of which was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone came to your office and provided you with solid, credible information that you believe would advance the cause of the investigation, you would have embraced it and used it. True?
True.
Well, here's Senna Wong and David Liebman and Tom Miller, their affidavits. Patsy Ramsey wrote the note. Your office totally rejected those alleged experts as simply not being credible or qualified. Am I right?
I would say that was the conclusion that we reached.
JonBenet Hoffman was not satisfied that you, again, had refused his offer to solve the case, and he did, in fact, follow up with a lawsuit filed on his behalf, trying to force you to prosecute Patsy Ramsey,
True.
which lawsuit was ultimately dismissed.
Correct.
Am I right that Mr. Hoffman again tried to force these experts, alleged experts, or some of them, onto the investigation in terms of trying to force you to present their testimony to a grand jury?
Yes, that's true.
And I think Michael Caine responded in writing to Mr. Hoffman and indicated very clearly that he did not find. I've read
Agents with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation ruled that John Ramsey didn't write the letter. However, their findings regarding Patsy Ramsey were inconclusive, according to the Denver Post. A practice letter was also found inside the home. Investigators called on some of the nation's most notable handwriting experts, including Vassar, Professor Donald Foster, whose claim to fame was connecting Ted Kaczynski to the Unabomber's widely circulated manifesto. Foster examined the letter and came to believe Patsy Ramsey penned it herself, according to the Denver's The Daily Camera. However, Foster's statements, which were to be heard before the grand jury in '99, drew controversy since he reportedly wrote Patsy Ramsey a letter on his own 6 months before helping Boulder police, claiming he absolutely and unequivocally believed in the mother's innocence. Suspicions toward Patsy Ramsey grew when authorities realized the ransom note was written on her notepad with a pen from inside the home. In 2016, handwriting expert Sena Wong appeared on 2020, agreeing that it was highly probable. Renowned forensic scientist David Henry Lee said the writing is more like a female, so by the process of elimination, we have a feeling who wrote that note. David Lee said nobody in the investigative community believed it was a real ransom kidnapping. I say that to say that it wasn't just, he's focusing on Sena Wong and I think the other individual as if they were the only people who just believed that Patsy penned this letter. And that's not the case. So for you guys, it is credible evidence when you already have somebody from the Colorado Bureau of Investigations saying we might have a problem. And then they hire experts around the nation saying this might have been pinned inside. We don't believe this is real. That's credible enough to continue looking and saying, well, is there anything to this? Well, let's go out and get some more experts. Okay, by themselves, I will hand you by themselves, Sena Wong and others may not be credible by themselves. And I won't even say that they're not credible. I will say that you just want more opinions. You want a second opinion. But to say that they're not credible is crazy. Based on what? Based on what?
From your interviews, enough to become comfortable myself with the conclusion that you, while clearly people can agree or disagree and criticize or praise however they see fit, you strike me, Mr. Hunter, as an individual who has a genuine love and respect for the rule of law. And I think you would tell me that that's true. You do.
I think I do.
You believe strongly in our criminal system of justice.
I think it's one of the best in the world.
You are not going to succumb to the suggestions once literally made by Darnay Hoffman and again made by Steve Thomas that the way to get justice is to go out and throw somebody in jail and see if you can sweat out some type of a almost coerced type confession. That's not the way you do business in this system of justice, is it?
No.
And you do not do business in this system of justice by utilizing 327 of his book, and I think that's three.
There's a lot of cuts in this deposition, which might indicate that there's a lot of stuff that needed to be said that had to be scratched from the record. That's number one. Number two, D.A. Hunter, I don't think, trusts Lin Wood. I don't think he trusts him. Lin goes to say something and D.A. Hunter just pops up. His eyes look over and he's trying to listen, and you can tell like he's sitting like this and he's listening real intently for everything that Lin Wood is saying, because Lin Wood is trying to butter him up and, oh, you don't believe any of that stuff, do you? But it's like a positioning from Lin. And even though D.A. Hunter has his own opinions or whatever, and they generally agree, it sounds like he still doesn't trust Lin Wood. I don't know why.
27 of the hardback. Quote,
you see him looking.
Alex Hunter said that
he's like, and he's like leaning over like this, Like, I don't know what you about to say. What more do you have? Like, he's nervous.
He thought Patsy Ramsey was involved. That was more than offset by comments from his staff. Question by Mr. Hoffman.
He collected information. He blinked. It was like, yeah. So he's not taking fully in what Linwood is saying. He's collecting it in pieces. And then saying, yeah, so far, so good.
Were you present when Alex Hunter said that? Answer, yes. Question, you were. So you actually had an occasion to hear Alex Hunter express a belief with respect to Patsy Ramsey's involvement in the case. Answer, yes. Did you state in Steve Thomas's presence that you thought Patsy Ramsey was involved?
I don't believe I did.
Did you, since you had to comment on it, did you read Steve Thomas's book?
I have not read the book.
Have you done anything to familiarize yourself with the general gist of the book?
Well, one of my staff people sort of gave me a quick summary.
Did you get, from any summary that may have been provided you or any overview, do you come away with the belief that Steve Thomas's book contains incomplete information and information that has been distorted in a self-serving way to somehow justify Steve Thomas's feelings about the case?
Well, in terms of the briefings that I've received, well, I have said that as far as I was concerned, he was pecking at the bones of JonBenet for his own self-interest. I've just said that and believe that.
And you also believe in the principle that if you're going to accuse somebody of murdering their child, you better damn well be prepared to prove it.
Yes.
I don't want to get you into a...
That was a useless statement. Dumb. Stop talking like that in a professional setting. Stop doing that. Like, what are you doing? Let's keep the main thing the main thing.
Political dilemma.
I don't think I have any anymore.
But I'll get you into one if I can.
Okay.
I'm going to go back and tweak you just a tad by reminding you that you've acknowledged, and I've stated very clearly that I find you to be someone that I believe really believes in justice and the rule of law.
Correct.
What Bill Owen said about the Ramseys after the grand jury was discharged was totally inappropriate, wasn't it?
Wasn't it?
It would certainly be inappropriate for a lawyer to make those remarks. And
I cannot stand Linwood. I cannot stand him. His method is so loose. It's professionally, like, it leaves something to be desired. Like, it's lacking professional tact.
I think I have tried in a few of my remarks to cut him a little slack for being a non-lawyer and a political person. It would have been better had he not said those things in terms of my sense of the criminal justice system. But I'm kind of a practical politician. So I would cut him a little slack in that regard. I think I have said that I would have tried to advise him differently.
The governor of the state has no business making those kinds of statements with the implications coming from them against private citizens who, within the framework of the system, have never been charged with a crime.
Are you asking me? Are you telling me? What kind of bullcrap is this? What kind of stupidity and nonsense is this? We are here for a formal deposition. Do you have any legitimate questions for that? Or are you just here to talk about your feelings and have a water cooler powwow with DA Hunter? And just to try to put it on the record, this is what I say when we're talking about lacking professional tact. You are calling out people and dang near almost, should I say, trying to degrade and run down their character. Oh, you shouldn't have said that. What kind of a politician, what kind of a person would have said that? I mean, governors are people too. I understand what you're saying in terms of, well, he should have stayed out of it, or this, that, and the third. He has no this and that and the third of private citizens. But I do understand that the governor has certain um, aspects in which they can call on things to be moved forward or investigated, and working with the chief of police to try to resolve something for the greater good of the community. And he might have just been stating very loosely that, hey, we need to really dig into this and ensure that it's not these individuals so we can move forward. And he might have just been siding with the Boulder police in that we need to stick to it. I understand what you're saying, but we need to stick to it. And he could have very untactfully, in your description, basically said we need to stick to the Ramseys in order to, completely and thoroughly clear them of all guilt. For you to sit here in this deposition and try to attack people who are not there and attack this man about his opinions, what are we here for? I'm confused.
It violates fundamental fairness, doesn't it, Mr. Hunter?
Fundamental fairness based on what? Is there a legal statute that you're talking about, referring to? Or are you just talking out of the side of your face? Stop referring to stuff that doesn't matter.
I think in terms of my sense of the criminal justice system, I would agree with you. I just think that we have to keep in mind how this case has touched people. Some have been obsessed by it. And I think that in terms of some just kind of human considerations, I'd cut the man some slack.
Well, you probably cut him more than I would.
Probably.
I really can't find any justification politically, emotionally, or otherwise for the governor of the state to make those kinds of statements. But I will say this, and I said it then, I said it now. He not only shouldn't have said it, but he was wrong. To say that in October of 1999 that the Ramseys, to imply that they are hiding behind lawyers, was not an accurate statement of the Ramseys' willingness and efforts to cooperate at that point in time, because they had in fact already spent 3 days with police and prosecutors answering questions. They weren't hiding behind lawyers in June of 1998, were they?
No, but I don't know what he knew.
Well, didn't it strike you, looking at his comments, that he may not have been fully informed?
He was not fully.
Shut up about this. Shut up. Who cares? Why are you going after the governor? Who cares?
Informed.
And he wasn't currently informed?
He wasn't currently informed.
Because he got
and he
off.
probably didn't ask his legal staff for help in dealing with, the questions that were put to him.
Don't know that. For the record.
You observed that you didn't feel that Governor Owens was fully informed. At the time at which Governor Owens was in fact reviewing the case, so to speak, as it was at least being reported in the newspapers, I believe the newspapers reported that you were one of the people briefing him or helping him to review the evidence in the case. Is that true?
Yes.
Based on that, why is it that Governor Owens would not be fully informed on the case if you, in fact, were there reviewing it for him?
Well, I can't remember when his remarks were made, but I think they were made before what I think has been referred to as the blue ribbon panel. But I'm not sure about that, so somebody may have to give me a timeline on. I thought those remarks were made after my announcement that no charges would be filed, and before he was. We met with him. We met with him. All of the lawyers and I think Chief Beckner, but he was given kind of a 3 or 4 hour, maybe not even that long, overview of what we could share with him. Some of it we couldn't share with him.
All right. Mr. Hunter, at any time, did you ever make a public statement to the effect that although the Ramseys may have been cooperating to some degree, they were not as fully cooperative as they were being portrayed by their attorneys?
I'm not exactly sure what my language was. I believe that what I said in general was that they, didn't come down and knock on the front door of the police station, but that under our system, that was not a requirement, that they had to. I think I have tried to be consistent in saying, because I believe it, that people have a right to hire lawyers and to follow their advice and not to have inferences drawn from that about cooperation.
Were you surprised, personally, that the Ramseys had not gone down and knocked at the door of the police station, as you just described it?
At what point in time?
At any time in the investigation?
Anytime.
I think as a kind of an old warhorse DA, I was not surprised. I wondered about whether that choice they made was in their best interest, or if they had been properly advised by their counsel on that issue, but I'm not surprised.
But as you said earlier, it was your impression that the Ramseys had not gone and banged on the door of the Boulder Police Department?
No, they didn't go bang on the door of the police department.
Okay. I want to
Talk to him. Talk to him, Mr. Hoffman.
process. Did you
Seems like DA Hunter's getting a little agitated. Just a little bit. Getting a little agitated. Just a little biased.
ever feel there was a time when members of your staff lost their objectivity with respect to this investigation?
I had some concerns about sort of staying on track. Yes, I did. I had some concerns.
Could you tell me what those concerns were?
And to the extent these get into any of the law enforcement investigation and the way it was going, I'm going to instruct the witness not to answer on the grounds of the law enforcement investigatory privilege or the grand jury secrecy privilege if it was in that time frame.
Would you like to take a moment?
Oh, there's a lot cutting out.
And so,
I'll move on.
Yeah.
May I ask you, Mr. Hunter, what you...
Oh, we got a lot of... See, Mr. Hoffman was very particular in his presentation of the deposition and the way that he crafted his case to be able to present to John and Patsy. There's a lot of cutting out, striking from the record here and there on Lynn Wood's part. And when Lynn is leading the deposition, it's a lot of striking, things that can't be said, things that can't be put on the record, it seems like. It's a little tacky.
Your reaction was to the fact that Mr. Smith eventually discussed some of the evidence in this case on television.
I didn't like it, and I've told Lou that, and I've said that in, one or more interviews.
We've got to change the video.
Just one paragraph.
What book?
The district attorney and his top prosecutor, 2 police chiefs, and a large number of cops, although so at odds on some points that they almost came to blows, all agreed on one thing: that probable cause existed to arrest Patsy Ramsey in connection with the death of her daughter. Mr. Hunter, at any time during the investigation, did you personally believe that probable cause existed for the arrest of Patsy Ramsey?
On the charge of what?
On the charge of her involvement in the death of her daughter.
He just said that.
Well, I would ask that you make a specific criminal charge if you're asking for whether there was probable cause to support an arrest for it, Barnett.
Was there sufficient probable cause to support an arrest on any charge of Patsy Ramsey in this case?
Well, I don't think in those terms. I can't imagine, although I can think of a case that happened one time. I don't want cops arresting somebody on probable cause when I have to then make a charging decision shortly thereafter. We just don't do it that way.
So is your answer no, there was no basis
Well,
for believing that there was probable cause?
I just don't think that way in terms of probable cause that way. I do in terms of search warrants and so on and so forth, not in terms of charging.
I don't like what you're doing. Now we see a little bit of backpedaling. A man of integrity and just, the law and all of this, that, and the third. But I'm asking you, did you believe in front of Lynn Wood? Did you believe that there was probable cause? I'm not asking were you going to arrest. I'm asking you, was there anything that led you to believe that there was probable cause to arrest Patsy? I'm not asking you, what I'm really asking you is, did you have some sort of inclination or evidence enough to say probable? It's probable. We don't know if we're going to do it, but it's probable that we have evidence leading to a possible arrest for Patsy. So I'm asking you, you could think however you want. You could be one. What it sounds like you're saying is you wanted to be more thorough in securing an arrest warrant with more than circumstantial evidence. But did you have anything leading you that way? Now we're starting to backtrack and say, I don't know. I'm not sure. What question are you asking? I'm uncertain. Tell me where you're going with this. I don't think that way. When we were talking to Lynn Wood earlier, it was yes and no. I do believe that. I don't believe that.
With respect to...
Because I was expecting him to shake his head, to see signs of shaking his head no, and he doesn't have to, but I was expecting to see some visible signs when Mr. Hoffman was asking about Patsy. I was expecting, and if DA Hunter were to legitimately not believe that Patsy, there was probable cause to arrest Patsy, I would have expected the DA to start kind of going like, no, I didn't, and kind of lean up and talk on the phone and say, no, we didn't believe that. But he didn't. His head stays straight. And he's like, I just don't think in that term.
Statement that I believe you made earlier in the deposition, which involved discussions with the media by law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you said that you disapproved of that. Is that correct?
There's a statute in Colorado that prohibits the release of evidence There are also, the certain canons in Colorado concerning what a prosecutor can release in terms of a statement to the media. There are guidelines on it.
Do you feel that your communications with Jeff Shapiro of the Globe violated any of those prohibitions against that sort of communication?
No.
Are you in a position to be able to discuss or characterize, if only in a general way, your discussions with Jeff Shapiro?
I did not discuss evidence with Jeff Shapiro.
Did you, as has been reported in, I believe, Larry Schiller's book, ever give information regarding John Eller to Jeff Shapiro?
I may have given several reporters some information about John Eller that I had received from the Rocky Mountain News.
Could you tell us what the purpose of giving that information to several reporters was?
I felt that it would be appropriate for them to take a look at that.
Would you characterize the evidence that you were given by the Rocky Mountain News, which
It was
you
not.
subsequently gave to other reporters, as negative?
I'm going to object to the form. He hasn't characterized it as evidence. He characterized it as information.
All right.
Yeah, it was, right.
Then I will withdraw the question and restate it. Would you characterize the information that you received from the Rocky Mountain News that you subsequently gave to other reporters as negative to John Eller?
I don't think the information itself was negative. I think it suggested that they might make some inquiries. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was a resume, and several reporters some information about John Eller that I had received from the Rocky Mountain News.
Could you tell us what the purpose of giving that information to several reporters was?
I felt that it would be appropriate for them to take a look at that.
Would you characterize the evidence that you were given by the Rocky Mountain News, which
It was
you
not.
subsequently gave to other reporters, as negative?
I'm going to object to the form. He hasn't characterized it as evidence. He characterized it as information.
All right.
Yeah, it was, right.
Then I will withdraw the question and restate it.
Right.
Would you characterize the information that you received from the Rocky Mountain News that you subsequently gave to other reporters as negative to John Eller?
I don't think the information itself was negative. I think it suggested that they might make some inquiries. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was a resume and some information of that sort.
Did you feel that giving this information to these reporters would somehow help the investigation?
Yes.
Can you explain?
Yes, I wanted
But it would help.
John Eller out of the investigation.
You wanted John Eller out of the investigation?
I wanted, that's right.
I'm sorry, I'll repeat my question. Are you
Yes,
saying that you
I wanted him
John
out, I
Eller
wanted him out of the investigation. And I, talked to Tom Kobe about that over a long period of time.
So was this information for the purposes of facilitating getting John Eller out of the investigation?
I thought it might move him out of the investigation and put him back in, administration someplace.
Is it true at the time that John Eller was in fact in charge of the murder investigation into JonBenet Ramsey?
Right, he was. I mean, the chief was in charge, but he was the commander of detectives.
Are you telling me that you guys just criticized several people like Sena Wong for going into the media, for their use of the media to present a narrative. I don't know what Eller did, but apparently there was some, what it sounds like, there was some sort of newspaper like some reporters did some investigation on him and turned it over to DA Hunter. And DA Hunter read over it and said, what might be credible information. And he passed it along for what it sounds like other news outlets to expand into the atmosphere of public view. If that is the case, that in and of itself is shady. And you did it to shame him. What it seems like you did it to shame him, if I understand correctly, I might be misunderstanding, but to put pressure on him, or his superiors to put pressure on him by public opinion to get him off of the case, because there was something that he was doing or something about what he had done that you didn't like. And so you used the media to remove him from the case. And you did that intentionally. So the media served a purpose for you, but for somebody like a Sena Wong or the other handwriting experts, they can't do that, because they're just looking for the media, and you guys ain't looking for the media at all. Talking out of both sides of your mouth, sir.
You felt that despite the fact that he was the commander of detectives, that moving him out in the middle of this investigation would be useful for the investigation?
Critical.
And so, did you ever ask Tom Colby to remove John Eller from the investigation?
A half a dozen times.
And did Colby ever agree to remove him?
Yes. On his own in November, when he appointed Mark Beckner to the position.
But until that time, he had not agreed to your requests, of which you say there were a dozen?
No, I said a half a dozen, I think.
Half a dozen.
Okay, half a dozen.
Do you feel that any of this information that was given to reporters was instrumental in Colby's finally deciding to remove John Eller?
No.
Do you feel that you would have placed this investigation in jeopardy by not keeping John Eller in the case?
I don't understand the question, Darren. I object to the form.
Was John Eller so detrimental to the case that it was essential that he be removed from the case this way?
He needed to be removed from the case. Chief Colby needed to make that decision. He finally did.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. We'll come back and look at Steve Thomas specifically. So that's the video. Let me know what you think so far. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Until next video, take it easy.